Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. It is honestly, just a beautiful day. It's like 60 degrees here, or I guess 15 degrees for those that are outside of the States. But yeah, hope everyone's doing well. I know there's a lot going on in the world, so hope that folks are taking care of themselves and doing whatever they feel like is necessary. I think I just wanted to start off by just saying thank you so much for all of the warm support and kindness and warm regards and everything in the last video. It just feels so special, and I just feel so grateful that I can just sort of sit down and record these videos and put myself on the internet and kind of take that step of courage, and for it to be met with so much kindness and support and warmth. And I know that I'm not like, I don't know, the greatest like orator or some highbrow philosopher or anything like that, but to just kind of like put myself out there authentically and just kind of be myself, and for it to be met with so much kindness, I think it just means so much to me. So I just wanted to say thank you, and it gives me so much, I don't know, optimism and hope about technology and about the internet. And it's just not every day that you kind of see those sorts of spaces on the internet. So seriously, like, thank you so much. It really means a lot. And I hope that I can continue to do things that are helpful and valuable and interesting. And I'm always open to anyone's feedback. If you have anything, just let me know. I read all the comments. Okay, also, I feel like I'm talking not that loudly, so I'm going to try and increase my volume just a little bit. But yeah, so I think that, like I said in the last video, I want to be more consistent. So I'm thinking maybe the cadence of like every 2 weeks or something, I can kind of sit down and kind of just talk about how like the journey has been. I'm not sure if people are interested in the entrepreneurial journey, but I can talk a little bit about that, but also really just talk about generally just like my mindset on things, and the ideas that I've been juggling, and just kind of like document that and have it to look back on, and really just share where my head is at as I'm sort of on this sort of long journey. And yeah, just thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for being on this journey with me. So for today's video, again, I just want to talk about a few books that I picked up, and just like some general ideas that I've been thinking about. I'm also planning on releasing my first newsletter post, so thank you to everyone that subscribed to that. I'm thinking that the newsletter will be a place for kind of more refined, concise, sort of deliberate writing, and I'll just keep these YouTube videos as pretty raw and authentic and unrefined, and I'll just kind of sit down and just talk, and just kind of go off the cuff and not put too much into making it super polished. I think I'll leave the writing for that. But yeah, anyway, so let me kind of dive into it. So I have a few books here that I picked up. So one thing to note is, obviously, like, you probably see that I'm like always like picking up books. I probably have like, I don't know, like hundreds of books in this room, and the reality is that honestly I don't get to all of them. So oftentimes, like, I'll pick up a bunch of books, and I don't even end up like reading some of them. But I mean, that's completely okay, because one, I think that it's a good indication of sort of what's on my mind, like what sort of inspired me to pick up these books. And usually I'm very intentional. Like, if I'm picking up a book, it's because like there's a certain something that sort of inspired me to pick it up. It's not just because I kind of just like walk past it or anything like that. Usually it's like, oh, like there's some like idea or something that I want to explore further. So I think even just like knowing that, okay, this is an idea that motivated me to go pick up this book, I think is worthwhile in itself. And then secondly, yeah, and then and then secondly, well, no, honestly, I think that that's really just it. Just that, I can always sort of come back to these books like when I need, and I don't have to read everything in one go, or I don't have to read everything within a week of having picked it up. But yeah, so maybe with that, I'll kind of start with this first book here, and this is Mindset by Carol Dweck. And I picked this book up because I've kind of been in this space where I'm really thinking a lot about the way that I think about like effort and the way that I think about work. And the reason why I think this is important is because I often sort of find that oftentimes the way that I can sort of make the biggest change in my life, and I definitely would have found this with the Buddhism stuff and the spirituality and that sort of journey that I'm on, is oftentimes like the way that I can make the biggest impact to my life, and also even like with like therapy and all that, like the biggest way I can have like a significant impact that sort of permeates on all the different domains or disciplines of my life is really by changing my mindset or the way that I'm like thinking about something or reframing the situation that I'm in. And so I find these things to be really powerful. I think that this like interest that I have in spirituality and in psychology and in mindset and the way that I think about things, I think really stems from really realizing the sort of power of just like the way that I'm thinking about things and my mindset towards things. And so oftentimes you'll probably see this sort of trend is that I'm often sort of integrating or seeking out books that have to deal a lot with sort of mindsets and have to do with sort of psychology and thinking of it as like the sort of software that the brain sort of operates on. But yeah, so anyway, let me actually get into the book. So I picked this book up, and I'm sure that the idea of like the growth mindset is probably pretty familiar to a lot of people. Essentially, the idea is that our intelligence or our attributes, our abilities aren't fixed, and instead they are things that can be changed and that can be improved upon. And it seems like a pretty simple like shift in how you're looking at things. And I guess it is like a pretty simple shift, but honestly, I think it's like very, very impactful and it's very, very powerful. So the reason why I think having a growth mindset is so impactful is because when you believe that you can improve and that you can get better and that your intelligence can improve, it then really reframes the way that you look at things that require a lot of effort and things that require a lot of hard work. And so the opposite of a growth mindset is sort of a fixed mindset, and this is the idea that my intelligence is fixed and that it can't be improved. And so if I have to try hard on something, if I have to do something that feels effortful, if I have to do something that takes up a lot of work, then it kind of just means that I'm stupid, or it kind of means that I'm not already smart enough, so why even do it? And I think for a lot of my life I probably carried that mindset, and again, I think that these things are probably it's probably less black or white, but it's really you can probably carry a lot of different growth mindsets and across a lot of different areas of your life. Like, I don't know, maybe I have like a fixed mindset about like socializing with others, but I have a growth mindset when it comes to like training or exercise or something like that. So I think it kind of depends on the domain, but I think overall, like quite generally, I think I definitely carried like quite a fixed mindset when it came to intelligence and when it came to like how I was sort of viewing effort. If I think about it, this was probably a lot, or this probably came a lot from, I don't know, just growing up in like highly competitive like academic environments, and despite that being a tremendous privilege, also just like some of the scars that I think that sort of come with that is just like having a sort of hyperfixation on intelligence and like sort of constantly comparing with others and all the imposter syndrome and sort of all of that. So I think that like reading this book has actually been like quite a dramatic shift, because it really has changed the way that I look at like effort and the way that I look at like hard work. And so I think this is really important. So I want to like spend a little bit of time to sort of like breaking it down. So ultimately, if you're looking at things from a growth mindset, what that ultimately means is that you are seeing that, okay, let's just take intelligence as an example. You're seeing that your intelligence can change. It's something that's malleable and it's something that can be improved upon. And so the way that you sort of improve your intelligence is obviously through effort and through hard work. And so the reason why this is so beneficial is that like when you're looking at effort and hard work through the lens of this growth mindset, you're not saying that, okay, with enough hard work I can do anything. But essentially what you're saying is that in order to improve, in order to increase my intelligence, that sort of engine for that sort of growth is actually effort and is actually hard work. And so instead of seeing effort and hard work as this thing where, okay, like if I have to work really hard, then it means that, I'm stupid. Like, if I was already really smart, I wouldn't have to work this hard. It's instead seeing effort and hard work as this is like an opportunity for me to learn, because if I'm working hard and I'm applying a lot of effort, it means that I'm probably doing the right thing. It means that I'm probably growing beyond my original capacities, and it generally just means that I'm improving. And so I'm not sure if that if the way that I've explained it is super clear, but I think it's sort of like a subtle distinction, I think. But I think it has like a really profound impact, and I've already seen like how like profound of an impact that it really has, or has had on me already. And so, this whole idea with like the growth mindset, I think it really is about how I'm like sort of like viewing effort and how I'm viewing like hard work. And I think maybe like hard work sort of has, it's one of those terms that I feel like just like carries a lot of baggage. And this is one of those things where I feel like, sometimes language can be pretty limiting just because we carry language from a lot of like different contexts. And I don't know, you talk about like hard work, and obviously, it ties into like the American dream, and it ties into, I don't know, probably a lot of stuff that we were told as children about working hard. And I think in some ways it sort of has this sort of like negative connotation. It's like, oh, if I have to work really hard, it means I'm going to lock myself in a room and be really hustly and be on this sort of grind set and just work for 12 hours a day. And so maybe honestly, like maybe a better term to use there is actually something that's a little bit more intentional, like deliberate work or deliberate practice or intentional work or something like that. But again, the key idea here is sort of reframing this like effort, this hard work, or this deliberate practice, whatever you sort of want to call it, as something that's actually very like proactive, and it's something that's like really good, and it's something that's actually an opportunity for sort of growth. And I think this is really important, and it's like a big reason why I'm like very grateful for Carol Dweck's work and sort of embracing this growth mindset, because it just really reframes the way that you look at these things. It reframes the way you look at effort and hard work, and I think that sort of applies to basically like any sort of discipline, any sort of domain. But yeah, I've just found this to be really, really powerful and very, very helpful. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this book first. Maybe the second thing I'll talk about on the growth mindset as well is that this actually combines with another thing that I've been thinking about, which is this idea of setting my goals, or thinking about my goals in terms of contribution to the world. So I think that like when I first started this whole entrepreneurial journey, for example, I was thinking about my goals in this sort of narrow lens of, okay, like how am I going to make a certain amount of income? Like how am I going to make like X $1,000 a month or something? How am I going to make to get to a certain point financially in terms of these sort of like external markers? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think you probably do need to have that sort of like very, I don't know, self-motivated, individually focused goals that you want to chase. But I also think that there's a lot of merit and that there's a lot of advantage to thinking about your goals in terms of and I also think that there's just a lot of merit, and there's a lot of so I think there's just like a lot of merit and a lot of benefit to kind of thinking about these goals in terms of mastery and craft and artistry, and thinking less about how am I hitting certain benchmarks of success, and more about what are the skills, what is the craft, what is the artistry, what is sort of mastery that I'm cultivating in this sort of practice, in this sort of thing that I'm applying myself towards. And again, like this is actually like a really recent sorry, I'm just gonna take a sip of this tea. This is a really recent revelation for me, and it comes from actually watching Kendrick Lamar at the Grammys and seeing him win 5 Grammy Awards for Not Like Us, and then also seeing him perform at the Super Bowl. And I had grown up on Kendrick Lamar, some of his older projects, for anyone that's familiar, grown up on like Overly Dedicated and, Section 80 and all of that stuff when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And, Kendrick Lamar is obviously always been like highly revered and, seen as someone who's sort of like a master of his craft and one of the greats of all time. But I think, seeing him win those Grammys, then go perform at the Super Bowl in front of hundreds of millions of people, and then also go back to listen to his most recent album, really kind of, I don't know, just made me think about artistry. It made me think about mastery. It made me think about craft, and it made me think about like sort of committing to one's craft and mastery over the course of, decades and years, and sort of what that looks like. And so the reason why I tie this back to the growth mindset is because I think that like when I tie my like overall goal or when I tie my like overall ambition to this idea of like how can I actually contribute to the world? How can I develop art? How can I develop a skill set that allows me to, I don't know, develop like mastery and ideally, have some contribution to the world that's really significant. And I don't know whether that's going to come through writing or maybe some of the technology stuff or, even through this YouTube stuff. I think it becomes also a lot easier to kind of see the effort that I do now in service of, that, I don't know, mastery or craft or that contribution that I want to have into the world and really to others, into society, 15, 20 years down the line. The reason why I think this really ties into the growth mindset is it's again sort of seeing, so it's not only am I reframing the way that I see effort in the short term, because in the short term I'm seeing effort as this way to sort of improve my intelligence, to improve my abilities, but I'm also sort of seeing it as being in service of this sort of like grander goal that I'm now of this grander goal that I'm just like tying more towards contribution and others, and how I want to have an impact, and how I want to have a legacy, and how I want to I don't know, contribute to others and contribute to the world and contribute and just contribute to the world, really, and just make things better for other people and also for myself. And it doesn't take away the individual milestones that I have of, I don't know, becoming wealthy or achieving X markers of success, but I think it becomes a lot easier to sort of really to really reframe the way that I look at hard work and effort when I sort of tie it to that greater ambition, and also when I sort of tie it to that longer time horizon of thinking about things like, I don't know, 15, 20 years down the line, and especially when I have like role models and people like Kendrick Lamar or other people that are really dedicated to their craft. I also have this poetry book by Seamus Heaney, and again, obviously another sort of like artist, another person who has really refined his craft over decades and decades and decades, in this case in poetry. And yeah, so I think that's just like the big idea that I'm kind of thinking about these days is this idea of like, one, the growth mindset, and then also this idea of like craft and mastery and what it takes to sort of get there. And I know that this video was kind of long-winded, but I think it's really important for me because I think that this is actually like a really significant shift in my mindset and a really significant shift in how I approach my work and all of that. And I think that, okay, it's like 20 minutes, honestly, so I feel like I've talked for enough, but I do want to also mention just super quickly maybe some of the other books that I sort of picked up. And you can see that my mindset has pretty been dominated by these ideas of like craft and mastery and of growth mindset pretty recently. So I also picked up this book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. I've talked about some of his books in the past, but again, he's also this person who sort of really emphasizes the idea of sort of slowing down, being very intentional, having very deliberate and focused practice, and kind of setting up your work environment in a way that is minimizing the amount of external distractions so that you can focus on one task in tremendous depth at a time. I've also picked up this book by Josh Waitzkin, and if anyone has seen the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, that was basically based on his story. He's basically a chess prodigy who also became sort of like a master of Tai Chi as well. And so this book is all about how he approaches learning. And I think it really ties to some of my ambitions because he's someone who kind of sees the world in terms of systems, and he sees the world in terms of like interconnectedness, and he sees the world as kind of like taking lessons and principles from one domain and transferring it to another. I think that's really powerful, and I also think that that's something that I try and do. It's something that I try and do with my interests in technology and AI, and also with books and reading and psychology and spirituality and all of these things. Trying to see the links, trying to sort of build the systems and trying to see the sort of like interconnectedness of I guess like of all of these things. Okay, so I definitely rushed and I talked a lot about the growth mindset and didn't even get to talk about like some of the other stuff, but honestly this is already 20 minutes and I don't want to make it too long. I'll absolutely share more of these ideas in the newsletter post that's coming in. Basically been working on it. I think my plan is to, or like what I've been doing is I kind of just work on that daily. So the prose and the writing I think is a lot more coherent. I'll keep these videos as a little bit more chill and kind of laid back and raw and authentic and just kind of speak off the cuff. But yeah, I'll try my best to sort of keep to that cadence of, you know, one of these videos every 2 weeks and just sort of go from there. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, really appreciate it. If anything I talked about really resonated, feel free to let me know. But yeah, see you guys in the next one. And again, thank you so much for all your support. It really means the world to me. And yeah, thank you for making this community so special. I'll see you guys in the next one.